This video is sponsored by World Anvil.
Welcome to Critical Role Demystified. I'm Mike Christensen, and this is a series where we see what lessons we can learn, as DMs and players, from episodes of Critical Role. Today we're discussing episode 17 of the Vox Machina campaign, Hubris. As the game opens, the party is kind of listless. They just lost Pike to her holy work / to the first season of Blind Spot, and they don't really know what they want to do. But Scanlan breaks the ice by returning to the temple and quietly watching Pike work, guiding the other followers of Sarenrae as they uncover more of the ruins. He takes the potion he got from Gilmore and feels his stomach churn. And then he quietly poops in the corner of the temple, producing a blue glowing turd. And he now has the power to see through this poop and watch this location from afar. So anytime he wants, he can check in on Pike and feel comforted to know that she is well. If this is all new to you, if you came to Campaign 1 from the other campaigns or from Legend of Vox Machina, you might be asking, wait, what? What is this? Why is this happening? Well, there are two answers. One of them is conjecture, and the other has been confirmed by Sam, who plays Scanlan. We'll start with that one. When asked about this, Sam said that he basically realized Scanlan had developed this new tendency to poop places. He pooped on someone's bed in the Underdark, and for whatever reason, more on that in a minute, he had the sense that Scanlan would wind up pooping somewhere again and wanted there to be a reason behind it next time. When Scanlan asked for the potion from Gilmore, neither of them out loud said that this potion would have anything to do with Scanlan's bowel movements. But Scanlan refers to seeing things someplace he has left his mark, and Gilmore cocks an eyebrow and basically says, you're kind of a little freak, aren't you? This, to me, makes it clear that before Scanlan asked Gilmore about this, Sam asked Matt about it. Matt knew what kind of potion Sam wanted, and specifically, that it would be poop-related. So, okay, we know that Scanlan commissioned this potion from Gilmore because Sam wanted future poops to be narratively justified. But why is Scanlan pooping anywhere besides a chamber pot? Why is any of this happening? Well, that's where this becomes a conjecture, but I do have a theory. During the pre-stream campaign, Scanlan was a notorious womanizer and Lothario. He and Grog would frequent whorehouses, and he would make unreciprocated advances toward Pike's affections. But everyone at the table was amused by it. They were all having fun, and he could see all of their faces in person and know whether or not a joke was working. But once the game moved to streaming, suddenly these sexual jokes, the jokes about seducing Pike or visiting whorehouses, they have a new audience. And he can't see their faces and read their reactions. It's not like live theater where the audience's energy level is audible. He could read the Twitch chat, but as you and I know, you should never read the Twitch chat. This is the reason I think he gradually backed off of some of the more overt sexual jokes. They didn't go away entirely. He's still the subject of more sexual jokes than anybody else in the campaign, and it's such a big part of his character that it basically became his entire personality in the animated series. And someday I'll do a whole other video about how he constructs his jokes, and why not all jokes are created equal, but that's a topic for another day. But that's partially my theory for why Scanlan shifted more toward scatological humor. Plus, those who've watched the cartoon, and people who've watched Sam's ads and sketches on Critical Role for 7 years, they'll all know, Sam also does like gross-out humor. But, setting aside the specifics, this is something that happens in D&D all the time. Characters evolve. My very first character was constantly drunk for exactly 2 games, before I realized that just wasn't very fun to play. My Rune Knight fighter was intended to be a pacifist, reluctantly fighting to protect himself, but that wound up not meshing well with my playstyle. Characters change and evolve. Sometimes you can find an explanation. There are plenty of times on many actual play shows where a character's change is rationalized by the events of the story. But sometimes the change is just a retcon. No, this isn't what this character is like anymore, because what we're doing now is just more fun. Anyway, Scanlan leaves a glowing blue poop in the temple, much to the chagrin of the other players. The players make their way and find themselves in the Braving Grounds, a neighborhood devoted to Cord, the god of battle, and the home of his temple. And here they find the Crucible, a friendly fighting pit, where anybody can place bets. Grog is so excited for a fight, and Vex is excited for a chance to win some money. Grog enters under the stage name Philip, and bets are placed, and then they meet his competitor, Kern the Hammer, a half-orc, and the current champion of the Crucible. They run a one-on-one combat between the two combatants, and Kern is a barbarian as well. And Matt and Travis have some excellent descriptions of their combat. If you're looking for inspiration for how to describe combat during a D&D game, this is a great scene to watch, and I highly recommend it. That said, for recap purposes, we will save ourselves some time here. Grog and Kern beat the hell out of each other, and at one point, Kern does drop unconscious. But he's a half-orc. So he gets back up with 1 hit point, and he knocks Grog unconscious, and Grog loses the fight. The party drinks their sorrows away. Grog took things especially hard, as did Travis. Hubris. And the truth is, Matt knew this was going to be the first half of the game, almost certainly. As soon as they leave the temple, Matt puts them in front of a huge statue of Cord, the god of battle. Even if he hadn't played with Travis for 2 years at home, Craghammer itself would have taught Matt that one of the first things Grog looks for in a new city is someplace to get into a fight. And he knows the party needs to blow off some steam after the somewhat heavy end to the last episode of saying goodbye to Pike. Is this railroading? Yeah, a little. Although, really there was no guarantee that his players were going to go for the bait. But he knows them well and knows what they like. He knows what they needed at this moment. A low-stakes brawl. Matt gave them the means to have that experience, and they took him up on it. This is part of being a dungeon master. As you run a campaign, you look for whatever will give your players joy, and you make it happen. At this point in the episode, the cast takes a break, and presumably Matt pulls up the information he needs to run the next part of his adventure. Although he could do that at the simple click of a keystroke if he'd use today's sponsor, World Anvil. World Anvil gives you all the tools you need to run your campaign and store all of your lore and information in one place. For example, when the party asks an NPC who his boss is, you don't have to shuffle through your papers like Matt does. You can just click on the relevant link of that character's page and jump to the article you made for that organization and see the roster of characters at a glance. It doesn't just save time at the table, it helps you approach your campaign prep in a more comprehensive, yet still easy to manage way. And World Anvil is offering our Critical Role Demystified viewers a discount. If you visit worldanvil.com and use the promo code SUPERGEEK at checkout, you can save up to 40% off of any annual membership. Thank you so much to World Anvil for sponsoring this video. As Vox Machina wakes up the next morning, the group is debating where to go next. They don't have much money to go shopping, but Keyleth is still apprehensive about visiting her tribe. And then they hear a horn. The bartender calls it the Horn of the Trial, and it means there's some sort of attack. And then he's going to get ready. He then goes and gets his own weapons. A creature is attacking the outer wall, and the party rushes to the wall, where a guard tells them that this creature, this Hydra, has been attacking the walls over and over the past month. The party asks about killing it, and the guard confirms, yeah, there are probably lots of organizations that would pay for a Hydra head. Grog runs back to the bar and asks about the Siren, one of the other fighters that they saw at the pit. The bartender says she can sometimes be found with a group called the Slayer's Take. The party goes over the wall and they track the Hydra. Along the way, they find a creature that someone killed and used as bait for the Hydra. They come upon the Hydra drinking at a lake. They take their positions and ambush it, unloading a bunch of powerful attacks. Oh, and then another adventuring party charges in, very upset at our heroes. They say the Hydra is their mark, and Vox Machina is not supposed to take it from them. It's against the rules. Remember that bait that was set out for the Hydra? Yeah, Vox Machina was not the only one hunting it. Tiberius launches a pair of fireballs at the Hydra, but he gets a few party members caught in the blast. A quick side note here, this is honest miscommunication. It's not the first time it's happened where Orion asked a question and either didn't understand the answer or didn't get a correct answer. And whenever I bring this up, there are always some people in the comments who say that I'm giving Orion too much credit because of other bad things he does on the show or in his personal life. So moments like this shouldn't be factored into anything. I don't know how many times I need to say it. I don't make these videos just to pile on to Orion. I already made that video, and I said my piece. Sometimes I will have more to say, more insights that come from this rewatch of the campaign. But also, sometimes things he did that are bad D&D or whatever are just normal miscommunications. Both things can be true. We can have opinions about his more problematic behavior, of which there's plenty to draw from, but we can also learn from the moments where he was just a guy who played D&D and it didn't go the way he expected or wanted. And this is an interesting example of that, because I'd always remembered this moment as Orion realizing he and Matt were not on the same page and then trying to clarify how he wanted to cast the fireball, and Matt saying, no, you've already cast it. That is something that Matt will do in many, many future episodes with many cast members. In fact, we can even argue that it's part of how he DMs, especially when he's using physical maps. But that's a topic for another time. Because watching it back, Orion twice tries to clarify and adjust where the fireball was cast, because obviously he wouldn't hit his friends with a fireball if he'd known it was going to hit them. And it's the other players, Laura, Liam, and Travis, who quickly say, no, it's fine, it's too late. You cast it. Grog and Vax are in the blast of these fireballs, and they're fine with letting it play as it lies. What can we learn from that? Well, I think the other players, especially Liam, Sam, and Travis, are generally really good about accepting the fact that, in D&D, sometimes things happen that are not intended. One of Liam's go-to moves when someone in the party messes up their turn, strays from the plan, or sets off some unintended consequence, is to quickly jump to someone's defense with the simple phrase, "Fog of War." He doesn't say it in this episode, but this mindset is still present. This is how he approaches D&D a lot. Not always. He's a human being. There are times when he gets invested and he gets frustrated just like anybody else, but he's generally very quick to make sure nobody at the table lays the blame at anybody else's feet in moments like this. That's what Fog of War means. Don't be too hard on them, these things happen. The other thing we can learn from this is that we can always be more precise with how we communicate with our players. Mistakes happen, they always will, and Matt Mercer is a human being who will sometimes say something wrong, or answer the question he thinks he's being asked and the player won't properly understand him. It happens. But nowadays he will show them on the board where their spell will impact. He has these templates that show the shape and size of the spell effect, but you don't need to go and buy those. If a player asks, how much is 20 feet, you can trace the area with your hand, for example. In this case, Orion forgot that the radius and diameter meant different things. His fireball was twice the size he expected it to be. And like the other players, Matt tends to follow a play it where it lies philosophy to DMing. When something happens and the spell doesn't have the intended result, he will sometimes, not always, but often, insist that they proceed forward even though the player feels they would have done something different if they'd understood how it worked. That's just the nature of his style. It's not something that you have to do. In a lot of ways, Matt is a wargame DM, and he can be kind of a hard-ass, and that's not right for every group or every table. Also, Orion should not have been able to twin the fireball spell, that's not how it works, but it's been 7 years, that's not the kind of rule clarification I care about. I just mention it because I know some of you are going to comment about it, and that's not remotely the most interesting or relevant part of this moment. So Tiberius casts his fireballs and knocks Trinket unconscious, but also gets several of the enemy adventurers in the blast, and kills the Hydra. So then the other adventurers lay out why they're so mad. They didn't just call dibs on the Hydra, this is not Warcraft. Aldor, the leader of this team, says that they are part of the Slayer's Take, the guild that is lawfully authorized to hunt monsters in this area. They've got a monopoly on this market, or maybe they're a union, I don't know, however you want to think about it. And by hunting this Hydra without being part of the Take, Vox Machina has broken the law of Vasselheim. Vox Machina just wants to split the bounty, but of course Aldor says there was a specific bounty on the Hydra. That's part of the problem. There was a contract in place. A magically binding contract. The enemy cleric suggests they all go talk to the Huntmaster, the leader of the Slayer's Take. Maybe they can get Vox Machina added to the contract. They can figure out a fair dispensation of the bounty, but more importantly, these Slayer's Take members won't lose their standing in the guild, and Vox Machina won't go to jail. Also, if Vox Machina joins the Slayer's Take, they'll be able to take bounties for monsters in the area and get paid to kill whatever they can scrounge up a contract for. It's a win-win. The Slayer's Take members butcher the Hydra for pieces they need for the contract, and then they lead Vox Machina back to their guild hall. Before we get to that scene, I want to highlight how carefully Matt chose his words leading up to this moment. When the signal rang out, the bartender called it the Horn of the Trial and said there was an attack. He didn't say what that meant. He also said that the Siren works with a group called the Slayer's Take. He never said they were the only monster hunting guild in town. The guard talks about the Hydra and says if they kill it, there's probably a bounty on it. He never said they needed to go and get that bounty first. And honestly, why would they? These people live in Vasselheim. This is how the city works. Why would they even think to say anything else? Aldor shouts that this is their kill, and the players assume it's a dibs situation, like they're stealing his kill. And they don't care about that. Why would they? Matt makes sure his NPCs leave out the extremely important detail about what the Slayer's Take does, and what they do exclusively, because he's baiting his players. He's tricking them. This is a dirty trick, pulled off elegantly. It's the most delicate form of railroading, and it worked like a charm. He played the players like a fiddle. He puts every reason in front of them to go and kill a Hydra and get a reward because he knows they'll fall for it. And then once they do, he pulls back the curtain and reveals that they just broke the law and they need to join a monster hunting guild to make things right. Remember what I said last time about the way Matt's choices almost unconsciously reinforce how Vasselheim is a city of rules? This is the same thing. They went to go do something that seemed perfectly natural. Go kill the giant monster that cracked one of the city walls, and they found out afterwards that they broke the law. Again, we get a reinforcement of the idea that you can get in serious trouble in Vasselheim completely by accident. But, okay, why did Matt go through all this trouble? After all, in a lot of other instances, he's happy to put an adventure in front of the players, and then, if they don't take it, no big deal, that's DMing. Why does he set them up for a fall here, entrapping them to make sure they have to join the Slayer's Take? Well, it's almost like he's already got solid plans that cannot change for what's going to happen over the next few weeks. Well, speaking of that, the party follows Aldor's team to the Quad Roads, where the deity of civilization, Arathis, is worshipped, and where all the commerce happens. They enter the Slayer's Take Guild Hall and meet the Huntmaster, a tiefling woman named Vanessa. She explains that they provide monster pieces to be used by mages all around the world as ingredients in spells and rituals. Side note, I'm actually now thinking about the untapped potential of an entire campaign where you just hunt monsters as part of a guild. I know that's probably not that weird to some of you. In fact, you might feel like every D&D group is already just that. But I tend to run very narrative-heavy games. And I don't know, I just think this guild is neat, and a whole campaign where you're all members of the Slayer's Take would be dope. To join the guild, they need to complete a contract, and they have 3 days. If they fail, they flunk out of the guild and go to jail for bursting in on somebody else's contract. Vanessa wants to see what they're capable of, so she divides the group into 2 teams. Scanlan, Percy, Vex, and Grog will be on one team, and Keyleth, Tiberius, and Vax will be on the other. The twins are particularly peeved to be split up. And that's the end of the session. But Matt lays out the plan. For the next 2 weeks, the Vex, Scanlan, Grog, Percy team will be joined by 2 guest stars, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn and Felicia Day. And in the following 2 weeks will feature the Vax, Keyleth, Tiberius team, joined by Will Wheaton and Will Friedle. I am really excited to get into these episodes. They are a lot of fun. These guest characters are terrific, and ultimately a few of them will become major supporting characters later in the campaign. But we'll pick up there in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, there are some great ways that you can help. First, subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell if you haven't. Second, the Patreon. Every new patron gets me closer to unlocking future goals, like upgrading my equipment, buying products to feature on my channel, and, down the line, hiring an editor to help make these Critical Role Demystified episodes faster. I've also just opened up a bunch of new patron rewards for higher tiers, so let me give you the full rundown. At $1 a month, you get a special role on Discord to show that you're a patron. By the way, that's another way you can support me, by joining the Discord. It's a really cool community of friendly people. It's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you check it out. At $3 a month, you get access to PDFs of cool D&D content I make for the patrons, including things like monsters, magic items, all sorts of stuff. You'll also get to join live streams I hold for the patrons. I just ran a poll for my next one, and it will be scheduled for
Sunday, November 20th. I put my hand up too long.
I look forward to it. At $5 a month, you get access to these videos, ad-free, and you get to see exclusive videos nobody else sees. At $10 a month, you get your name in the credits for that D&D content. Now here's the new stuff. At $15 a month, you get to vote in polls for the topics for future videos on this channel. At $25 a month, you can submit an idea for me to turn into one of the D&D rewards for the patron. Basically, you'll be commissioning me to make an NPC, or a monster, or a magic item, or something like that. At $35 a month, you can commission me to create a bonus episode of my Demystified series about an actual play one-shot. There are a bunch of Critical Role one-shots that are not part of the main canon you can request, but if there's something from another series you'd like to sponsor instead, some one-shot run by another DM on some other channel, you can commission it at this tier. At $50 a month, you get to decide on a topic I will talk about in a future video. At $75 a month, twice per year, I will hop on a video call with you and give you advice for your D&D game. We'll talk about whatever you want, your plot, your dungeons, your encounters. We'll work together to make your game better. And if you support me at $100 a month, I will run an online game for you and your friends once per year, every year you support me. Also, the fourth way you can support the channel is by signing up for my newsletter. All those links are in the doobly-doo below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, play fair and have fun.